When Amanda Harker wrote me in 1984 or so, when my father was had died, and Ono, who appeared on his obituary, was a medical murder. She quacked to the effect, when you see a particularly fine turn of phrase, strike it out. I didn't know that she was working for Yoko Ono. I didn't put together the stuff about Season of Glass from Season of Truculent Machines. It didn't occur to me. Why would they? You say she was name dropping a Waters dacoit, someone Joni Mitchell, but I just wanted to talk about poetry with Peter Gabriel. So that was all. I was not pushing myself on the great. And it was just a common gesture of between artists. But they were out to strike out somebody from the other team, was what they had in mind. James McRyan Curry, and they poached me with the Zappa came at me with African ISIS people yapping from Senegal and stuff. Because what they had in mind was selling the idea of African ego satisfaction. My father said he left Nancy because she didn't allow him any ego satisfaction. Well, this is what they had in mind. The horrible crank who ruined King Crimson, Adrian Belew, was yapping about me, and he became an honorary the African Swami because he was getting black boys laid by Japanese. It was just pervert stuff. It was just pervert stuff. All of it was pervert stuff. But that's how they think, you know. In other words, you know, you can read something like The Fountainhead where a broken down old sculptor is appreciated by an architect who wants to give him a commission. And there's nothing ulterior about it. He just likes his art. You can imagine, you know, I'll approach Robert Fripp because I like his art. And if he likes my art, maybe we'll do something, you know, write a poem together or something, which is what I did with Peter Gabriel. It doesn't work that way. They use people. And they had identified me while they were saying, "We love you, man," when they were setting up a ripper backstab. I mean, they're at this point now threatening to murder me for cherishing, truly cherishing a poet from Gaza who's probably been promoted by them for the ulterior cause of Yoko Ono. Because what they did was so many people were yappy dap, yappy dap happy about using me as a dog bone for Hustler's formula of Reagan and Lenin resentment. The Gaussian intellectuals went along with it. So in 1994, nobody even unearthed that I was warning people about revenge for Auschwitz. What was Auschwitz? Auschwitz was a sickening German factory of death where innocent people were herded for no apparent reason and murdered in mass. Revenge for that would have been the rope at Nuremberg, it seems to me. But no, 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 no. Ian Wadmaker and Benjamin Netanyahu want equal numbers of innocent people to die. Well, they already had that in 1994. No, 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 no. Peter Gabriel and Cory Booker want to be known as Zionists. Hamas wants to be known as Zionists. They believe in chastity of women. They believe in bushes lined in the sand. So none of them said anything. It wasn't that they didn't dare. It's that they didn't care. And they got a couple of MAGA types to say one of our friends died of AIDS, so we want to make this child, which they have no consistency when it comes to the issue of child abuse, this deaf person, into a slave to manufacture pornographic genocide for profits. And is it surprising that that idea traces back to the people in the Catholic healthcare system who opposed abortion and released AIDS in the first place? No. Does it surprise anyone that an occult, militant, extremist, Islamofascist group attacked the supernova rave? No. And then Nostra, who allowed them to do it so he could commit a genocide in Gaza? No. But Gaza is being blackmailed, just like the ICJ is being blackmailed by the consciousness of Yoko Ono. They can say, well, we were supporting peace and John Lennon, so And they just made that story up. What they were supporting was the AIDS attack. And you would think, I would be juvenile about it and say, well, they deserve it because of that. They don't deserve it. Those are children who had nothing to do with it. But the Hamas has convinced Gaza that it's them versus the Israelis when they're the glove on the hand of the Israelis. It's perfectly obvious. They have Abby Martin crybabying about Gaza when she's the glove on the hand of the Beatles. All of them were stink bombers when it came to Yusu Endor. Yusu Endor is a perfect example of what happened at the supernova rave. He attacked me as a raver, basically. He was like Hamas shooting up Pittsburgh. And the people of Palestine would rather put their money bags on an Islamicist working with the Beatles who covered for the AIDS attack and set them up than try to disentangle themselves with academic attention to the details in the super story of Hitler-Reagan semiotics. You think Mussolini's Italian futurist crowd is going to liberate you? And evidently they do, because Roger Waters and Yoko Ono have convinced them that Mussolini means them no harm. He means them peace, and he means them regeneration, and it will be just like starting over if a bomb falls on your tent. I know it doesn't make any sense. They crushed the people, the civil rights movement, the anti-war movement during Vietnam, between an obnoxious British drug-addled fascist, his cronies, and Ronald Reagan. They said we're the partners. Well, why don't you believe them? You think John Lennon would be being anti-Israel right now? Is Crackhead Ragusa? Is Jeffen anti-Israel? No. Yusuf Endor was drumming for the Zionists who murdered my father. Murdered a school bus driver because they wanted a white to use as a dog bone. Now, who was the idea from? You think it was from the Black Panthers alone? It was from Will Brum, a white racist promoting Joseph Goebbels on Mount Desert Island. UW Dialectal is not stupid. They put this together so they could spin things.